and we think that our information is so important to bring to the world, but then we don't get the results we want and we start to maybe get burnout or fatigue.
I am looking for people who get the product that we need in the most effective amount of time.
Your business isn't going to be handed to you. Like, you got to grind and get it. As loan officers, a lot of us just really want to try and figure out what type of content we should be putting out. That is either through Instagram or even podcasts. And one of the issues that we have as loan officers is we really start to get shiny object syndrome, and we think that our information is so important to bring to the world, but then we don't get the results we want and we start to maybe get burnout or fatigue. So I'm bringing in Andy to help us understand essentially what's important when it comes to delivering a podcast, if you should even do that podcast or not, and really get some insights as to how to make that successful. So Andy, thanks for your time. Appreciate you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
I guess we should start with the most obvious thing is how many people start podcasts and fail, and how many people start podcasts and just shouldn't even be doing it in general?
Yeah, I mean, I always encourage people, if you think something's for you, give it a try. You know, maybe do 7 episodes, I say is the going rate. And if it's for you, great. But I am not the person that thinks everyone should have a podcast.
Definitely.
I think you should have a podcast if you are looking to build a community, and that is the vehicle you are choosing to deliver information to your community. But I don't think it's actually necessary for every single business owner to have a podcast.
Yeah, appreciate that. Well, let's talk about some of your credibility so that people can look at you and say, all right, she can definitely back what she's saying.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? So tell us about like your long history into really getting into podcast PR.
Sure.
And then tell us what that means in your world as a podcast public relations person.
Yeah, absolutely. So I own Alpha PR firm. This is our first year in business, but I have about 9 years in PR and operations. So I started in the political industry, doing a lot of consulting there. And then I moved over into the business industry. So I am really enjoying the saturation of podcasts right now. I saw that there was a trend of so many people piloting podcasts, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to get on this wave. And one of my first accounts for PR in my own business was a podcast. And all of my clients since then have been referrals. And so every time I meet like a new influencer or an industry leader or an expert, people are like, oh, I would love to hire you. And it's really just people seeing you in your job, doing a good job. And that's how all of my clients have come. But I work with a lot of industry giant people, like most people, if people are familiar with like Limitless Arena or Aspire, like those are people that I work with on a day-to-day basis. I'm also really lucky to work with a lot of locals in Arizona as well, and people looking to make connections to people in those really large industry spaces. But yeah, my background's a little bit of politics, a little bit of business, but very stringent background overall.
Totally. So and when you're in like that political space, the guidelines are so narrow. It's hard to like get creative because you've got to follow so many rules.
Absolutely.
So being forced in that position to find success on the other end, it's got to be pretty rewarding. So I'm wondering what that transition's like for you and the freedom you have now, because in politics you're pigeonholed.
Oh my gosh, incredibly,
right?
Yeah.
You get that break away from it, and now you've got the freedom to pretty much work with anybody. Yeah. So let's talk about people that should be doing podcasts and people that shouldn't, right?
Sure.
Because sometimes maybe you just need to be told that you shouldn't be doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think just coming from a political background, if you don't do your job, you get fired, right?
Yeah.
So I think business is very forgiving. It's been a little bit easier for me to maybe learn something and then apply it here, apply it there. Most of the time in politics, if something goes wrong, it goes very wrong. And the whole building's on fire and someone loses their seat, right? Mm-hmm. So business, I'm really able to take time to articulate my next best move. And I think for people who are looking for their next best move and they think it's a podcast, I want you to really consider, like, is this the best vehicle for your information in your business? There are people, I think, who should have podcasts that have a lot of information to give to a community. And I think that's wonderful. And I think that they take time to have like a production crew like this, like your amazing crew. And they take the time to really make quality content for people so people can grow and learn. And then there's people who just like to hear themselves talk, right? And you really have to measure, like, do I want a podcast for me? Because I think I'm a self-made important person. And this comes off as like a little bit harsh, but it's like, are you a self-made important person, or are you really helping people get to where they want to be? And those are the people who should be having podcasts. I always tell clients, like, we have to find something likable about you, right? And there's so many likable qualities about so many people, but likable doesn't necessarily mean right or perfect. It could mean edgy. It could mean polarizing. It could mean, you're a risk taker. Like, whatever it is, we have to find that thing and really pilot all of your content towards it. Otherwise, you're just talking in a mic. No one's listening. You're not going to get reviews and subscribers and a loyal following or a loyal community, because people are like, oh, this person just likes to hear themselves talk. And in the past, I have had clients where I'm like, oh my gosh, this was a misalignment here. This person just likes to hear themselves talk. Sure. And no one wants to form relationships with them. And then I have other clients who have been the exact opposite, where anytime I put someone in front of them, they're like, I'm going to do business with this guy. Like, they walk away like unwanting to walk away. And I'm like, sorry, we have like a next person coming to film. They're like, okay, well, like, let's get a meeting going or whatever. And like, those are the people I really love to work with, and those are the people that should really be having podcasts.
Yeah, that's interesting, because I think when you start to find success, especially in sales, you think you can take your sales public and it still comes off as sales.
Absolutely.
And from a podcast standpoint, it needs to be more informative, probably, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And a little more in touch with commonalities. But a reoccurring theme that almost every guest that comes through that we talk about is like really finding your authentic self, and that being the forefront of what you sort of expose out to the market. How hard is that to find, or how hard is it? It's probably pretty easy for you to find.
Yeah. Got the eye.
Right? How hard is it for people to make a full transition, and then what happens when they find success on that other side?
Sure. So what I'll say about authenticity is, like, I think when you really sit down and have a conversation with just about anybody, that is their authentic self most of the time, right? When you put your self online, a lot of people have this fear of being seen. So being authentic, sometimes they're like, I really want to just be myself, but they're so afraid of being seen, because when you're seen, you have this open veil for judgment, like real judgment on your actual character. The thing is, like, not everybody's gonna like you. And then when you implement sales into it, right, like, if people don't like you, maybe you want to make sales, so you start like ruminating about all of the possible risks that could just downpour onto your business. Like, if I am who I really am, would my business still be thriving, right? And I think with PR, I always tell people I am very much so the quality control of people's lives, right? There's two different types of quality control. I would say it's like operations or PR.
Yeah, sure.
You get hired because maybe there needs to be a little bit more discipline in the way the company's run, right? Or maybe we need to scheduleize how people are existing in their company, and
systems, operations, scorecards, right? Like roles and duties.
Yeah, like you help to streamline teams and do all of that. And so, especially in the PR world, I always think to myself, it comes to myself, I'm like, if I were to be the most authentic version of myself, like, what kind of magnetism would that create versus being somebody like a salesy person or being something that you're not, that's going to cultivate such an inauthentic avenue for you
being what,
in the long term.
acting
right?
like the person you think the world needs to see you as.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Right. And it is going to tank eventually. Like, how long can you keep that up for?
It's
Truly?
it's exhausting.
And
I can speak to that because I used to do that. And when I made a transition.
Haven't we all, honestly, that's the reality.
Love that, yeah. And when I made that transition, I thought it was going to take a long time. And what I found was like quick success on the other end.
Right. It's like people actually really like you just being yourself.
Totally.
Even if it is polarizing. I've worked with some awesome influencers. They're so polarizing. They're like cussing on camera. They're like, you need to do this, this, and this, like right now. And it's so like brace yourself, but it's them. Mm-hmm. And it's very impactful to the audience that relates to them. Mm-hmm. Right? Not everybody's gonna like you, but the qualities that make you likable, use that.
Yeah, totally. And let it find its audience.
Absolutely. Yeah, let it find its audience. That's a great expression. Yeah, truly. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Absolutely.
So for people that maybe are familiar now with breaking away from the sales side of being on a podcast,
right,
and trying to I call it self-serving. I used to call it reels for deals. You're just spewing pointless information out there in hopes of somebody giving you business.
Right.
Instead of informing or telling stories. So let's say somebody has that transitional break where they're away from sales and they are good at being their authentic self.
Sure.
And they have figured that out. That's probably the best time to really, harness that and take it for a ride.
Sure.
Right? What's the best way to get started and find success when it comes to podcasting?
Okay, this is a great question. You want to build your personal brand. I always say that if you have a really unique personal brand, you could sell toilet paper. Truly, you could sell anything. You could have a fantastic podcast. I think a recent example I saw of this, and sometimes I don't like to name names because people don't know who everyone is, but Gary Brecka is one of the best biohackers in the world, right? Okay. But he didn't have a podcast until recently, and he is such an expert in his industry. He's a wonderful, mastermind in his industry. Mm-hmm. But he spent so many years building the personal brand first and building the credibility, getting the expertise, and then he launched a podcast, and guess what? It took off.
Yeah.
Cool. It took off. So if you can build your personal brand to be such a force, right? So figure out your likable qualities, whatever that is, and build a really unique brand around it. You can sell anything.
Yeah.
So
what are some of the core basics that go into building your personal brand then?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right. So you want to find your pillars. So when I look at people's bios, so when I'm scrolling through for really cool podcast guests, because I work with tons of podcasts, and one of the things we do is a lot of guest collaborations. Mm-hmm. So one of my major complaints is I don't know what you do, because your bio says loving husband, father, which is beautiful, love that. But what is your expertise, mm-hmm. right? Where are your pillars? And when I say pillars, what I would like for people to do is put 3 to 4 pillars in their bio saying, their full name, and I help people with their fitness over 30 plus, and you're a mom, whatever it is. Mm-hmm. I want to see what your expertise is. I'm Andy White, and I, in my bio, I say I'm Andy White. I have Alpha PR firm, so you kind of can already see what industry I'm in, mm-hmm. and I work with public figures and podcasts. So you already know what I do in 3 lines. I know exactly what you're doing.
And I want to hone in a little bit here mm-hmm. for the people that are watching. PR could be used anywhere. I mean,
yep,
it is used everywhere.
Everywhere, without your acknowledgement, to be honest.
But you're extremely hyper-focused just in that podcast space.
I am.
Which is very narrow. Mm-hmm. So your audience, or the people that fall on you like I did, I know exactly what you do within a couple seconds.
Right.
So there's no guesswork.
Yeah, there's no guesswork. I always tell people you want to answer people's questions before they even have any.
Totally.
Don't give room for people to ask questions in your bio, on your Instagram or your LinkedIn or your YouTube, all of your social outlets, so people can find your business. You want to give them the least amount of groundwork to do as possible. So let's say people don't even know what PR is. How can I explain to them what I do in a sentence? So if you don't know what PR is, at least you know I work with podcasts and public figures, right?
Totally.
And people can concept that. They're like, oh, okay, I know what a public figure is, and I know what a podcast is. Done. So I know what she does for a living. You really want to break it down.
Definitely. It's no different than attorneys when it
1000%.
comes down to specializing with a certain type of case
Yes.
or a sector or practice of law.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
like if you're an accident attorney, you're not going to be a divorce attorney.
Yes, exactly.
So if you're a podcast PR, you're maybe not going to be a magazine PR specialist. right?
Absolutely.
Yes. So when it does come to either giving service to the community and providing value to the community, or exposing what you do, the more hyper-focused you are, the better chances you have of serving the
Right.
right audience then. Okay,
Absolutely.
cool. So why podcast for you?
You know what? This is such a selfish
And
personal
you
choice.
did mention it a little bit, but yeah,
You know?
I wanna go deep.
To be honest, I love hearing people's stories.
Okay, cool.
For my own personal gain, I love sitting in on podcasts, and especially when two people fly in from two different locations and it took so much to get them there, and all the schedules and all the whirlwind around like their big businesses and things. Like when you put two people in a room and they can share, their childhood story about how they grew up with nothing and now they're running 8-figure businesses. It's just kind of like time stops.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, it really is my own selfish thing. I just love it.
But you also you hit on that outside of camera. You talked about the difference between, let's say, self-made and handmade.
Yes.
Talk to me about the grit that you get out of working with people that had to get it themselves.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, coming from somebody who is also.
And this is relatable for the people that are watching because, like, your business isn't going to be handed to you. Like, you got to grind and get it.
Oh, 1,000%.
And that's how you get a put. And that's why I'm hitting on this with you.
Yeah, and even to back that, like I come from the land of 9 to 5. Like no one taught me how to run a business. I had no idea. Like from literal scratch, I was like, how do you file an LLC? Like what even is that? Like I started from the bare nothing. Like a lot of people that I talked to always knew they were going to be entrepreneurs. They like never really fit the mold in school, and they had all these struggles like fitting into 9 to 5. And they're like, that could never be for me. Like I was the opposite. Like I come from the land of 9 to 5. All of my family was either like attorneys, doctors, like just people working in like a corporate setting even or an office setting. All of my friends were in 9 to 5. So I had to, as some people would call it, like escape the matrix. But that is the grit.
Yeah,
right?
it's like on the other side of the playground.
It is. And it was very,
like over the
it was
fence.
very scary. I had no idea what I was doing. Even just setting up the business, like I had a skill set that I was like, once I figure out how to set up the business, I'm a killer and I have so much grit and I'm going to go for it. And I think to that same component, being around so many people who just had nothing and way more nothing than I did, way more nothing.
Yeah.
I had parents who were very supportive of me and like things like that. Like I work with a lot of people who like didn't even have that, and you see it. And now they're crushing it in business. And it's really because they just had grit and just blood in their teeth. And they were like, I can't even go anywhere else. I have to go here, this direction. Some people didn't complete high school or like junior high or like go to college. Like I did all the things that you're supposed to do when you're, forging the right path in society. Like I got good grades in school. I went to college. I got a scholarship. I got a great job out of college and I worked my butt off and did all the right things, and I still ended up being an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Right?
So what tripped you in that then?
Yeah, I think there's two different ways you fall into a new life. Like you get pulled into it by faith or you get pushed out by fear. And I just hated where I was at, to be honest. Like even making the most money I'd ever made, I was so miserable. And your old life eventually kicks you out. And you're so out of alignment. And I know you've touched out outside of the podcast, like burnout. I was going through major trends of burnout.
Yeah.
Like my last real consulting job I took because I was so burnt out in my old industry. I was like, I just need a year to slow down. Like, I don't even know who I am. I don't know what I like. I know that all I do is work. when people used to ask you that question of like, what do you do for fun? I'm like, I work.
Yeah.
And it's like kind of scary because you sit back and you're like, I don't know if that's like healthy or not. That it's good or bad. I think people who like to work a lot and you feel good working a lot, excellent. I was starting to like physically not be able to bear what I was signing up for all the time.
And we talk about that in the course about finding measurable successes and daily successes. Because as loan officers, we typically tie what we think is value to our own successions based on closings.
Yes.
So like if you're closing 10 deals a month in this industry, that's really good.
Right, okay.
You'll be in the top 1%.
Okay.
But if you measure your successes based on closings and you are closing 10 deals a month, there's 30 days in the month. You're failing 66% of the time.
Okay.
So
that's heavy.
It is. And like you will get burnout unless you try to find the entrepreneur side of the mortgage industry, which then comes down to breaking the mold, not following the standards, not doing the same 9 to 5, and becoming an entrepreneur in that space, right? And I think people get shiny object syndrome.
Absolutely.
Because they don't realize how much really goes behind the strategic planning of maybe how to even get into a podcast. And they think it's just equipment and go. And then they get burnt out, right?
Yep. It's a lot.
So they have to also, or as you are, like the things that you're doing on your side of the business to develop and scale those podcasts are completely different than what everybody else probably thinks, right? Mm-hmm. So talk a little bit about how you find someone to be valuable to work with.
Oh, that's a great question.
And then what is it that tells you that the success is on the other side of that?
Okay. Yeah, I think when I look to work with other consultants, because I'm always working with people, so whether it's a production team or other like branding consultants, I'm looking for people who have results and who work very hard. Because I will work very hard to make sure that my clients have a great success, because that's one, their reputation, and two, it's mine. Mm-hmm. So I am looking for people who get the product that we need in the most effective amount of time, and they do it so well. Like they truly do what they say they're gonna do, and they do it very well. And there's proof of that. A lot of times now in the space, we have like people who are posing as like gurus or coaches or like thought leaders, but they don't really have the backing.
Clout.
Yeah, they don't really have the backing of what they're talking. And there are people in my own space where I'm like, you know, you say, hey, you're like this coach for this, but like you're chaotic. How could you teach someone how to be more stable when you're such a chaotic person? Mm-hmm. Like when you're looking for leaders, you look for stability, right? So when I look for partners, I'm looking for people who are very like emotionally stable, very like intellectually stable. Like when I call them, they have an answer usually. Mm-hmm. Always looking for people who have more information than I do. If you could be the person who has the most information, if you could be the first call in the tornado, you win.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, you want to be people's first call. Like I know a guy. Mm-hmm. You want to be that guy. Because I know a few guys and I always call them and they know, and I'm constantly calling them. Yeah. I'm like, hey, got another thing for you. Hey, I have another question for you, and they're solving problems. Yeah. Be the person that solves people's problems.
Definitely. And I think as like loan officers, a lot of you guys forget that you are the business owner, and that if you can transpire into what Andy takes on is when she takes on a client, listen to how strict she is. And listen to the rules that are in play, because she can see the success all the way down the line. You can also see the toxicity that you may bring in if you take that chance. And most times when you see it and you do take that chance, it's usually never worth it.
Absolutely.
Right? But you have to continue to grow your business the same way that someone like Andy does, and assess, do I want this other person in my business? Are they close to my authenticity? Do we share the same rules? And do we share the same goals in our lives so that we can grow together simply and just harmonize our success?
Absolutely.
Right? Love that. What else?
What else?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, what else?
Let's talk about, can we call it like big boy pants and big girl pants?
Sure, yeah.
All
Okay,
right.
cool.
I think.
Let's get a little existential here.
Yeah, right. God, so many loan officers, so many salespeople, so many business people. You can blame everybody else for your problems.
Sure.
The
yeah.
market, a bad marketing department, not having enough product, having bad rates, or whatever it may be. I kind of want to dig here because
Sure.
I really feel like the difference between successful and like uber successful is just getting over the finish line,
Yeah.
if that makes sense. Like, I think about like the Ed Miletts of the world, Ryan Pineda, like
Sure.
these, Andy Elliott.
Sure.
They just finished what they started, and
agree.
and it scales and finds success on the other end. None of those people let excuses get in the way. You don't let
Absolutely.
excuses get in the way, right?
Yeah.
It's almost like we're smart enough to avoid the excuses. Like, we see the problem coming, we just know that I don't want to have to like fix that or create an excuse for it, right?
Right.
So let's, like, for the women that are in the course,
Sure. Let's talk.
yeah.
Let's talk.
yeah, let's just get at what it means to be, in control.
Yeah.
And a boss.
I think the most real thing I can tell you is, do you want to quit right now? Yes or no? If you don't want to quit right now, you have to figure out how to keep going, right? If you pray over your limitations, guess what? You get to keep them. So you really have to decide every single day, all right, well, am I just going to go get another job? Is today the day I'm going to go, work for somebody else or, work over here? If the answer is no, your only way out is to figure it out. And that's the harsh truth. You have to, like you're saying, cross the finish line. The way you do this and the way I've always been able to outskirt even my lack of knowledge is proper preparation prevents poor performance. And this is something that my 7th grade social studies teacher taught us all year, and it's stuck with me. Shout out Mr. Prothrow. I'm like, but it really stuck with me because I was like, if I can out-prepare everybody, I will win. Like, it doesn't matter if I'm the turtle, right? It doesn't matter if I even get there last. I will.
And you probably, because you are an out-preparer,
Right.
you always feel like you're behind everybody else.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It's, and back to that, if you can be the person that people pick up the phone for, if you can over-educate yourself, you learn how to fall right as well.
Totally.
If you can learn how to fall right and mitigate as much risk in your business as possible. Everyone tries to fetishize entrepreneurship. Like, just take the risk. Just quit your job and just go for it and just, do everything so radically. I solely disadvise to not do that. Like, I left my 9 to 5 the last bearable day that I could to make sure that I got some reps in my new business before I completely launched it and just went rogue into my new business. If you have a client and you're going to sign them maybe a few weeks from now, take that time to start even piloting some of their program before you even have them sign the contract.
100%.
Like, make sure you're very prepared, because when I have people on board, I'm like, I already have things for you.
And let me make that relatable to my audience. So
Yeah.
we talk about having targets as, like, let's say referral partners, whether that's financial advisors or real estate agents. And what I tell or coach on is, like, once you have a target and they fit through your authenticity gate and that they're going to be a good fit for you, like, stop selling and go learn everything you can about that person and where those commonalities are, and hone in on those commonalities and use those as ways to scale and grow your business so differently than what you're just saying here, which is understand your client.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And, like, truly take pride in doing a good job for people. I feel like that's just like a lost art, is like truly
and
take
also
pride in what
knowing
you're
that
doing.
the person you're going to do it for is going to, like, absolutely respect you for it. Because you can go do really good and put your heart out for somebody that's not going to respect it. there's a different side to that, right? And a lot of
Absolutely.
people take on the wrong type of clients.
Right. And also, when you take on the wrong type of client, realize that that's a misalignment and don't take it out on your good clients.
Yeah.
Still do good work for your good clients. I've had tons of situations just in my, post-college career where I'm like, I am never working for this type of person again. It was so incredibly just terrible experience, But then I meet a good client and then I so appreciate what a good client looks like. I'm like, oh my gosh, you're amazing. I'm going to kick ass for you. And really like hold yourself to a standard. I also think another lost art is just professionalism.
Yeah.
A lot of people in the entrepreneurial realm, which I think I was sharpened really well in the land of corporate and the land of politics, where like if you don't come to work with, the right shirt on, people are like, go home, you're embarrassing us,
Yeah.
Like seriously.
In politics.
Absolutely.
Sure.
Absolutely. Like you only get hired if you're going to represent well. That's the truth. And so I always come like looking prepared. I show up on every call with my face, like people who are just taking the Google calls or the Zoom calls with like, just the audio on. It's just like we've lost this craft of professionalism. And I think I'm in the right industry because I've always held on to that. And PR is like, I would like to work with PR people who are professional, for God's sakes, I love working with rock star clients. I have a few clients where I'm like, you live a rock star life and that's your job. But my job is to be like the professional-esque person for you, so you don't have to be, right?
Yeah.
So when you get hired for quality control, just make sure you're really taking pride in that. And there's very, very easy ways to heighten your professionalism in your business. And one of them is just like how you dress and like how you look and how you show up and how you speak and how, you like present yourself in meetings.
Carry.
Yeah, just like how you carry. That's a great word. Like how you carry yourself. And like a little bit goes a long way. All of my clients are referrals for a reason.
Yeah, and hone in on how you carry yourself, because we can all go out and buy suits and play that role.
Sure.
But if it's not fitting to your authenticity,
Sure.
right, then it becomes challenging and it's on the wrong path.
Totally. Right. And like that's actually a very good point, is like if dressing up in like office wear seems professional to you, but it's not authentic to you, find a different way you can still show up very clean, very polished, ready to go. Maybe like, do your hair a certain way, or whatever it is that's unique to you. Just make sure that if you were in the opposite chair buying from you, you would want to buy. Right? And sometimes people think, well, I'm so knowledgeable and I'm super intellectual, like I don't need to like dress however. It's like maybe not, but maybe you would also get a higher bracket of client if you did. You don't know. I say A/B split test,
Totally.
Split test a few looks, split test a few modes for you and see what brings you the best outcome. Because I know if I showed up here in sweatpants, everyone would be like, who is this girl? In PR. It's just like, it is what you sign up for,
Yeah.
So, and that's just the harsh truth, is like people want to hire professionals, and sometimes that is the aesthetic as well, and gotta do it.
And I love that you would like consider doing A/B tests of sitting down and presenting to a new potential client. But I think what I really love the most about that is that new potential client has already been filtered through whether you even want to be a part of them or not.
Right.
So you're not A/B testing on every single person. You're possibly A/B testing on the people that are going to be a good fit.
Right.
And now you're just trying to fine tune the value that you're bringing in front of them.
Right. Absolutely.
That's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what is the difference between PR and marketing?
Sure.
And what is then the difference between PR and advertising? And maybe even PR and brand at that point?
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Right.
Absolutely. So marketing is the umbrella term over PR and marketing. Or one more time.
Brand is the rain.
Yeah. Marketing is the umbrella of PR and advertising. Advertising is the exercise of marketing, and PR is the genuine reaction to that advertising.
Good.
And branding, and here's our separate tangent of branding. So branding, I always hire branding consultants because I can see it in the eye face of like what is wrong with the brand, but I need real integrators who can go in and like pull out the guts of the brand. Like, hey, like this website needs to be totally redone. Like the traffic is being channeled in like the wrong departments and it's confusing for people to look at the website. You know, I need people who can go in and refurbish all the social media posts and assess like colors. I always tell people, I don't care what color the wall is, and I'm gonna hire people who do. You know, I don't care. And it's just inside of me, I know that it's not my strength, like picking out colors or picking out a branding launch. Like maybe people want to do a podcast launch or a book launch. It's like, I'm going to bring in somebody who really cares about the aesthetic because I can tell what's wrong with it, but I will not take the time to fix it. And I know that about myself. I don't even do it for myself, you know? So I have other people do it for me, and I know what my strengths are. My strengths are relationship building, and it's making sure things really go well at the right time. It's bringing the right people in the right room. I can foresee like a very good collaboration, a good partnership, where a brand is probably going to go in 6 months, but building that initial brand, I always want like an extra help with that.
What's like, as you're talking, I'm starting to be reminded of an earlier conversation we had. And then I'm kind of like creating kind of a new title for you, even though you're in podcast PR.
Totally.
But like, you're a coach.
Oh God.
Right? Like in the PR space.
Yeah. I mean, you know, I feel I'm so, yes, I will say yes. And also I will say when people approach me with the terms entrepreneur and coach, I kind of shrivel a little bit. It maybe could be my own pull and tug with being seen, right? Or I just really want to hold on to the fact that I'm not anybody special. I just work really hard and I do a good job. And I think that just travels through the grapevine. And I'm always open for questions. Like if you're seeing this and you're like, I really just want to talk to her,
100%.
Message me. Because I was the person that had nobody to talk to.
Yeah.
I had nobody to ask questions. Like I had nowhere to go.
That's really common in the mortgage space. Like we don't have a lot of places to go to. And the reason why I kind of said coach is because you walk into environments where companies have people wearing the wrong hats, multiple hats.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? And that's really common in the mortgage space. It's like, one, we don't have leadership to go to because leaders that are typically in our space are the ones that got burnt out in our space.
Absolutely, because they're doing too much.
Yeah. And the ones that do figure it out hone in just on that, and they don't want to coach because they just want to keep being self-serving.
Right.
Right. So what about wearing too many hats? What about, the setbacks that can create?
Oh, yeah. So before I've gotten strictly into PR.
Because people think they're shortcutting it.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Right?
Like if I can do it all, then it'll get done quicker and it'll get done the way I want it.
Totally.
And I can have full control over everything. It's like, okay, well, you also have a business that you can't scale for multiple years. And I mean multiple. As long as you hold on to that idea that you're going to do everything and it's going to go the way you want it, like just plan on not scaling your business.
Yeah.
Before I was in PR, I did a lot of COO work, so a lot of operations in a business. The COO is usually second in a business. So it's like the CEO, the founder, and then the person that controls everything so the founder can just like sleep and stuff, you know? Like, and not sleep all day. I just mean like get like a few hours of sleep because they're working so hard. But I would say to the people who think you can do it all, you can't, and you should like that because there's people
Totally.
Really grow. Let that grow on you. Let that grow on you that other people are better at things that you are not.
Yes.
And find those people and collect them and say, hi, can you please come work for me? I swear I will yell at you every day and you can wear jeans in the office or whatever. Whatever it is,
Work
like
from home, do what
you
want.
can work from home if you just get me these 5 things each week. Like truly find the people that are good at things that you are not and keep them and try to hold on to them for as long as possible. I could do a whole segment on how you need to treat your employees and to retain them for a very long time. But for now, I will say if you're the CEO or the founder who thinks you can do it all, stop that.
Yeah. And that's like, as loan officers in our business, we are by ourselves.
Yeah.
And we do have to figure out a lot on our own. And what I have learned probably in the last 2 years by hiring people to help me, I've already outpaced what it took me 21 years to learn. Yeah. Just by using
incredible?
it is.
It is.
And you don't like it's it's almost an aha moment. And you're like, holy,
Yeah.
the amount of money that I just spent, I will save 10x in mistakes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And mistakes, and also like you are just ripping the life out of you. And
Totally.
if you
It's
want,
so deflating.
oh my God, if you want to run a sustainable business for years and years to come, and you think you're just going to do it all on your own, like it's just a terrible idea. But I think because, you know, it's that, and it sounds like from you as well, but a lot of us, especially in the entrepreneurial realm, I'm seeing this, but a lot of people are like high functioning overachievers. That comes from like a various of backgrounds, but when you have that personality type, you think that it's up to you to save the world with your like left dominant hand all on your own. And it's just not a very well thought out plan, but it has to do with control. And if you can relinquish control in your business to people who have shown you they've put in the reps and they give a good product, and you can trust them to represent you in some way, then please hold on to those people and heavily implement them into your business.
And when you have so much control in your business and you do bring somebody on, you're probably only letting them do enough at like 60% of their real capacity.
Yes.
So it's like when you let go and you start really letting go, then they really take off.
Absolutely. Like if you find somebody that's a stellar like A player, I always call them superstars. Like you need a few superstars in your business. If you find a superstar, let them run around. Let them own the whole department. Let them figure out when the weekly meeting is. Let them direct the rest of the team. Like don't micromanage them, because I've definitely been in roles where I was like a superstar in someone's business and I did the majority of everything. I was running the majority of teams and systems and operations, and micromanage so much. It's like, you don't need to. I'm actually better at this job than you are. That's why you hired me. Thank God, right? Not even in an egotistical way. It's like, you know, being a founder. I don't, you know, now I'm a founder, but that was not my plan. But I really admire founders because they are the visionaries. Go be the visionary. I will be the integrator that runs your business. And let me be.
And as loan officers, we always have like a vision for where we want our business. But at some point, you can't be a resource to everything.
Right.
You know, because then you're just over involved in that whole process.
Right.
And it's really important to let that control go, like you had mentioned, to your superstars. Let them work on some of the inefficiencies that you have in your business that you don't see because you're so involved.
Right.
And stop being a resource.
Right.
Because then they're always going to rely on you to get the answers.
Totally.
And sometimes, like you said, they're better at the job than you are.
Oh my gosh.
Or the task or the role.
And if you find someone that's better at that specific sector of your business, just seriously figure out how you're going to keep them, right? Because if they're that good, I can guarantee they're going to be looking for more money, more opportunities, growth. If they're a real superstar, they're looking for more opportunities. So give them outlets in their business, in your business,
more
to
fulfillment.
Yes, more fulfillment and more ownership, and really have them own that sector of your business, and they will just love to work for you. Like that was always my goal, and I had found a few people that I was like, I want to stay here forever, but then something, you know, in their business would happen, and I'd have to be, you know, in someone else's business, and like spend more time somewhere else. But I have found people where I'm like, wow, they really just give me full reign and they get the best product from me, you know? So.
Well, look, as loan officers, our goal today is really hone in on the shiny object syndrome and really just taking a smart approach to using your time and other avenues to potentially share your knowledge and help people grow and scale, and not necessarily just sell what you're really good at. But as you'll see, and as we continue to have interviews with great people who are successful, we're really all kind of like becoming the same. You can kind of hear the same things, which is like authenticity and getting help where help is needed, and relieving some of the duties to other people in your business so that you can continue to chase the vision. I talk to a lot of you loan officers, and I hear you say all the time, I process my own deals because I'm so good at it. Well, imagine how great you might be on the other end of that if you did let it go. And you've got to loosen up, and you've got to give some of those duties away so that you can figure out how to scale your business. Because if you're doing everything, it's really hard to scale.
It is really hard to scale and highly unadvised. You know?
I appreciate your time.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely.